So now that we know what a unit vector is, we can talk about the standard unit vectors and another way of representing a vector. So the standard unit vectors are basically, we call them I, which is the vector 1, 0, which that is, looks something like that. And J, which is the vector 0, 1, which looks something like that. So that means that every vector can be made up of the components of I, whatever the x direction that distance is, and J, whatever the y length is. And we call those the components or the standard components. All right, so in a nutshell, if I have any vector x, y, I can write that as whatever x is times I vector plus whatever y is times the vector j. And we call that the horizontal component. And then y is the vertical component. So let's look at some examples. So if I said vector v was negative 1, 2, you can also write that as negative 1 I plus 2 j. If another vector w is something like 7, 9, we can also write that as 7i plus 9j. Just another way to represent vectors. This is a breakdown. Once again, you'll see it in science, you'll see it in applications where maybe we are only concerned with the horizontal component or the vertical component. And that'll make sense when we start looking at applications. So let's look at an example of what we can do here. Find the component vectors given the angle and magnitude. So vector v has a magnitude of 6 and a direction of 75. So let's just draw a quick picture of that. And 75 degrees, I'm kind of picturing the coordinate axis. All right, so here's my vector. And it is magnitude of 6, and that direction is 75 degrees. Okay, so now we've got our right triangle here. I can find x and y. Okay, to find x, I know that cosine 75 equals x over 6, or x equals 6 cosine 75. And likewise, the sine of 75 degrees equals y over 6, or y equals 6 sine 75 degrees. So now we know that the vector v is simply 6 cosine 75, comma 6 sine 75 degrees. Or we can put those in our calculator and give an estimate of what those values are. And I believe that's 1.55 and 5.80. And if we really want to write that in the linear combination of the standard vectors, we can rewrite that as 1.55 I plus 5.80 j. Both of those work.